Have you ever wondered why some people seem unshakable, untouched by criticism, rejection, or betrayal, while you feel every sting like a fresh wound? Maybe you've dreamed of a day when that silent pain, the one you hide behind a brave face, finally stops eating you alive. You're not alone, and this video is for you, those tired of pretending, exhausted by the pressure to be strong, and ready to break free from the emotional chains holding you back. This isn't just another feel-good talk, it's a raw, unflinching dive into what controls you and how to take back the reins. Drawing from Carl Jung's wisdom, we'll uncover why avoiding pain keeps you trapped, how your unconscious rules your life, and why true strength isn't about armor but awareness. Stick around to discover truths that might hurt but will set you free, learn why suffering can be your greatest ally, and find out how to stop reacting like a puppet to the world's chaos. Watch until the end, because every step reveals a piece of the puzzle miss one, and you'll stay stuck. Ready to stop surviving and start living? Let's begin. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content. One of the most heartbreaking lies we've ever been told, maybe the biggest one of all, is that we are in full control of our lives. The moment we wake up each morning. But let's be honest, we think so. Not when most of us are still living on autopilot, merely reacting to the world around us, blindly obeying patterns we don't even understand. We wake up, we follow routines, we smile when expected, we cry when we break, and all the while, we tell ourselves we're in charge. But we're not. We're just going through the motions, unaware of the deeper forces pulling the strings behind our decisions, our feelings, and our self-sabotage. Carl Jung wasn't exaggerating when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That quote hits like a punch to the chest, because it's so true. We blame the universe. We blame other people. We blame circumstances. But rarely do we dare look inside and realize that we are the ones keeping ourselves trapped in a loop of confusion and pain. The ache you feel when you're alone and can't explain why. That surge of rage that erupts over something small. That unbearable sadness that seems to appear out of thin air. None of it is random. None of it is meaningless. Those emotions are not your enemies. They are messengers. They echo from the deepest parts of yourself, parts you've forgotten, rejected or buried, because they were just too much to deal with. I know this from personal experience. I've silenced my pain more times than I can count, thinking I was being strong, when really, I was just running. Jung described this inner wilderness as the unconscious. And let me tell you, it's not just some foggy background noise. It's powerful. It's alive. It's a vault filled with old memories, broken dreams, shameful desires, and unresolved trauma. It holds everything you've ever been too afraid to face. And here's the worst part. That vault doesn't stay shut. It leaks. It leaks into your thoughts, your behaviors, your relationships. It silently governs your life while you keep pretending that everything's fine. Ever wondered why certain words cut so deep? They feel like a dagger to your soul, while others shrug them off like dust. That's your unconscious being triggered. Those words poke at wounds. You've never truly healed wounds. You've tried to hide beneath layers of denial and self-judgment. And still, you trip over them every time, like emotional landmines buried in your psyche. And then, what do? You shame yourself. You scold yourself. You repress, suppress, and compress, thinking if you just act normal, the pain will go away. But Jung warned us, we cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. And God, He was right. So many of us are not healing. We are suffocating ourselves with silence, pretending that our darkness isn't real. Here's the cold, painful truth. The unconscious doesn't just vanish because you've chosen to ignore it. No, it gets creative. It sneaks into your life through toxic relationships you can't seem to escape. It sabotages your career, your joy, your confidence. It throws anxiety at you in the middle of your happiest moments, as if to say, you still haven't dealt with me. And yet, you keep labeling it bad luck. You keep insisting, why does this always happen to me? But it's not fate. It's not the universe punishing you. It's your soul, your inner self, screaming for your attention. If you want to stop being so deeply wounded by life, if you want to stop being at the mercy of your emotional chaos, then you need to stop running from what's inside you. It's time to stop fighting your pain and start listening to it. Because as long as your unconscious remains a stranger, you remain a puppet, pulled this way and that by emotions you don't understand. And here's something I've had to learn the hard way: trying to shield yourself from external pain only makes you more fragile, more exposed to the pain that lives within. You think you're building armor, but you're building a cage. Freedom doesn't come from defense. It comes from integration. Real power doesn't lie in becoming untouchable by hiding. It lies in knowing yourself so fully, so completely, that no external force can control you. That is not resistance, that is liberation. That is the beginning of true peace. So, no, you're not broken. You're not weak. You're just overdue for a reckoning with the part of yourself you've been avoiding. And I promise you this, the moment you stop being afraid of your own shadow is the moment your life truly begins. What does it truly mean to be someone who is unshaken? What does it mean to stand firm in the face of life's storms, remaining calm, grounded, and steady? Most people mistakenly believe that strength comes from building walls around their hearts, from shutting themselves off from the world. We create layers of emotional armor, shields that protect us from the harshness of life, thinking that if we simply become impervious, we will be safe. We wear masks, hide our true selves, and tell the world, I don't care anymore. Nothing gets to me. But let me tell you something important. Nothing could be further from the truth. The more you try to shield yourself from pain, the more you invite it in. Because inside, behind those walls, you are still bleeding. You are still corroding. Why? Because the issue has never been about feeling too much or feeling too deeply. The issue is about not knowing what you're feeling, not understanding why you're feeling it, and not having the courage to face those emotions head on. This confusion, this internal dissonance, is what tears you apart. The only people who truly experience this are the ones who have not yet gotten to know themselves. The ones who continue to run from their reflection, afraid of what they might find if they dare to look too closely. Carl Jung, in all his wisdom, said it perfectly. Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul. How powerful is that? He was reminding us that no matter how much we learn, no matter how many walls of intellectual knowledge we build, when it comes down to the core of who we are, our essence, our soul, we can never hide behind techniques and theories. That human soul within you, the one you are so desperate to protect with an impenetrable shield, is yearning to be seen. It's crying out for acknowledgement, for love, for acceptance. And as long as you continue to bury it under the armor of control and stoicism, that soul will remain in pain. It will scream and fight, even if you refuse to listen. Real emotional strength, true inner power, has nothing to do with being cold or distant. It has nothing to do with pretending that pain doesn't exist or pretending you don't care about anything. People often think that strength comes from the ability to ignore the struggles, to push them aside as though they don't matter. But that's not strength, that's avoidance. That's self-deception. Real strength comes from acceptance. It comes from integration. It comes from understanding that your pain, your struggles, your flaws, everything about you, the light and the dark, are all parts of you. And they deserve to be loved, to be embraced. You do not become untouchable by building a wall between yourself and the world. You don't protect yourself by closing off your heart or by pretending that life's harshness doesn't affect you. You become untouchable when you realize that nothing and no one can ever harm you unless you allow it. And you can only stop allowing it when you embrace what is within you, when you hold all the pain, all the joy, all the sorrow, and all the triumphs with open arms. Because when you integrate every part of yourself, your past, your mistakes, your fears, and your hopes, when you make peace with everything you've been running from, you realize that no one can touch what you have already embraced. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. True strength, in its most beautiful, transformative form, is the strength that comes from acceptance. It's the power that arises not from avoiding pain, but from understanding it, from healing it, from turning every wound into a place of wisdom. When you stop hiding behind your armor, when you stop pretending to be something you are not, you will find that you are finally free. Free to feel, free to love, free to live without fear. And that is when you become untouchable, not because you've built barriers, but because you have accepted and integrated your humanity. When you finally begin to integrate your shadows, those parts of yourself you were taught to hide, fear, or be ashamed of, something extraordinary happens. When you stop running from your fears, your insecurities, and your imperfections, you stop being controlled by them. You stop reacting to every trigger like a puppet whose strings are pulled by invisible hands. You stop living life on edge, always trying to defend yourself from some perceived attack. Instead, you observe, you choose, you respond with clarity, not confusion. And in that moment, that is where true freedom begins. Not the freedom the world talks about, but a deeper freedom, the kind that settles into your bones and says, I am no longer at war with myself. Carl Jung called this powerful transformation individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, beneath all the conditioning, beyond the expectations, past the roles you've been playing to survive. It is not about becoming who your parents wanted you to be. It's not about matching society's standards or trying to fit into someone else's mold. Individuation is about discovering who emerges from the union of your light and your shadow, the conscious and the unconscious, the seen and the unseen. It is raw, it is messy, and it is sacred. And here's something I wish someone had told me years ago. Individuation is not a process of becoming perfect. Jung made this clear. It's not about fixing yourself or polishing away your flaws. It's not about striving to become some ideal version of a better person. It's about becoming whole. You don't need to be more like anyone else, you just need to be more you. Not the edited version, not the filtered version, but the real, wild, broken, beautiful you. And here's the hardest, most humbling truth. The more you run from pain, the more it tightens its grip around you. The more you try to stay unaffected, the more you shatter at the smallest touch. Because pretending to be strong is not strength, it's fear of wearing a mask. And fear always makes us fragile. But when you face your pain, when you walk directly into the wounds you swore you'd never revisit, when you finally stop saying, I'm fine, and start whispering, this hurts, but I'm still here, something inside you begins to shift. That moment when you accept yourself with all your contradictions, all your beauty and brokenness, all your shame and nobility, that is when the outside world loses its power to destroy you. Because nothing external can dismantle a person who is internally integrated. Still, let's not sugarcoat it, this path requires a fierce kind of bravery. The kind that doesn't come from muscles or medals, but from the willingness to look within, to take off the mask you've worn your entire life, even when it made you feel safe, to feel all the things you were taught to suppress: grief, rage, sorrow, longing, tenderness. Yes, to feel, because buried within that very pain you feared for so long is the key to your transformation. This is what no one told you. Pain is not the enemy. It never was. It's not something to eliminate or avoid. Pain is the invitation. It's the threshold. It's the crack in the armor where the light gets in. It's the beginning of your becoming. And in the next part, we're going to walk through that doorway together. We're going to explore how suffering, yes, your suffering can be the very fire that forges your strength. Not the shallow strength of denial, but the real kind, the deep kind, the kind that rises from truth. It's time to dive deeper, this time without fear, without flinching, without running. Because let's be honest, you were never weak for feeling too much. You were just never given the tools to understand what those feelings meant. You were told to fear your own heart. You were taught that tears are a sign of weakness and that showing emotion makes you fragile. But they were wrong. Feeling deep is not a flaw. It's your superpower. And now finally, you're ready to reclaim it. And so, without even realizing it, you began to run. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically. You ran from the ache in your chest, from the questions that haunted you late at night, from the memories that cut too deep. You avoided, denied, suppressed, distracted. You told yourself you were too busy to feel, too strong to break down, too grown to cry. But the truth is, every time you ran from suffering, it didn't dissolve. It didn't vanish. No, it just followed you quietly, patiently. And worst of all, it changed form. That's the sinister part. Pain, when ignored, doesn't disappear, it disguises itself. It puts on masks you don't recognize. It becomes anxiety that tightens your chest in the middle of the grocery store. It morphs into anger that lashes out at the people you love most. It turns into apathy, that dull emptiness that numbs your mornings. Boredom that eats away at your joy. Self-sabotage that whispers, "You're not good enough anyway, so why even try?" And you're left wondering, where is this coming from? What's wrong with me? But there's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is that no one ever taught you how to sit with your pain. No one ever told you that suffering, if ignored, will dig tunnels inside you. It will excavate the fragile parts of your soul, hollowing them out bit by bit, until one day, without warning, everything inside you collapses, and you're left standing in the ruins, wondering how it all came crashing down. Carl Jung saw this in a way most people don't. To him, suffering wasn't a curse, it was communication. He believed pain was the soul's messenger, the siren song of the unconscious, the language that your entire being, not just your mind or your body, but the deeper, truer self, uses to scream for your attention. He once said something that changed how I view suffering forever. Depression is like a woman in black. If she turns up, don't shoo her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, treat her like a guest, and listen to what she has to say. But how many of us do that? How many of us welcome the pain, sit with it, and breathe through it? Hardly anyone. Instead, we silence ourselves. We numb. We scroll. We drink. We overwork. We pretend we're fine. We'll do anything to avoid facing what matters. But pain, when unacknowledged, becomes a persistent echo. It gets louder the more you ignore it, and eventually it forces you to stop. So I ask you, what is this pain trying to show you? Here's what I believe with all my heart. Suffering only hurts so deeply because you are still at war with yourself. There's a part of you that longs to evolve, to grow, to become more, to break free from the chains of old stories. And yet, there's another part, your ego, that is terrified of losing control. That part of you wants to cling to comfort, to familiarity, even when it's killing you inside. That inner war between the call to transform and the fear of letting go, that's where your pain is born. Because let's face it, change hurts. Growth demands a death of sorts. Letting go of old beliefs, detaching from toxic relationships, And walking away from your false self, it's not easy. It's a grieving process. It's an internal funeral for the versions of you that once served a purpose but no longer do. You are shedding skin, and that rawness you feel, that's what rebirth feels like. But here's the beauty most people miss. When everything inside you falls apart, when the mask cracks, when your defenses collapse, when your illusions burn to ash, that's when something new can be born. That's when you finally see yourself for who you are. Not the person you've been performing to be, not the person the world told you to become, but the real you, raw, vulnerable, powerful in your authenticity. And that moment, that sacred moment when suffering brings you to your knees, when it strips away everything you thought you needed and shows you the truth, that's when the miracle happens. That's when you meet yourself for the first time, not as a fragmented being with broken pieces, but as a whole soul, awakened and alive. At that point, suffering becomes sacred because it delivers you to the doorstep of your operation. It humbles you. It cleanses you. It forces you to drop your ego and touch something far greater, the core of who you are. Jung knew this. He understood that suffering is not a malfunction. It is not the system breaking down. It is the system working as it should. Pain is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of your transformation. It is the first knock on the door of individuation, of self-realization. And if you're willing to answer that knock, not with fear, but with reverence, then your suffering becomes not your prison, but your path. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. So let's stop running. Let's stop pretending that our wounds make us weak, because maybe they're the very thing that will make us whole. The real tragedy is that most people give up just before the miracle happens. They begin the journey into the shadows. They tiptoe toward the edges of their buried pain, but the moment it starts to get too dark, too silent, too unfamiliar, they retreat. They run. They distract themselves with noise, entertainment, routines, shallow relationships, anything to avoid the confrontation with what's truly within. They go back to the surface, pretending they're fine, trying to reassemble the mask, hoping no one notices the cracks. But not you. If you're reading this, if you've made it this far, then something inside you is ready. You've crossed a threshold already, one that many never dare to approach. You're ready to walk through the dark valley, not just visit it and flee. And this next part is where everything begins to change. Now, we're going to explore how that crossing happens. We're going to talk about what it truly means to walk the path of individuation, to become whole, not by becoming perfect, but by becoming authentic. This path is not glamorous. It's not Instagram-worthy. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with solitude, confusion, grief, and disillusionment. It is lonely, it is brutal, and it is liberating. Because in that raw space, stripped of illusions, you are finally free. Very few people choose to begin this sacred and terrifying journey. Even fewer choose to finish it. Why? Because this path makes no promises. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't offer comfort or predictability. It's not about self-improvement. It's about self-destruction, the destruction of everything that is not truly you. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of becoming your true self, but he also warned that this means unlearning everything you've been conditioned to believe you are. And my God, that hurts. More than rejection, more than loss, more than betrayal. Because the moment you begin to see that your identity, what you thought you were, is based on roles, survival tactics, and performances for love and acceptance, your foundation starts to crack. You realize you are not your job title, not your pain, not your image. You are not your trauma, your reputation, or your curated persona. That was all built to survive. But now, life is calling you to live. And living begins when the unconscious starts pushing forward all that has been hidden, all that has been silenced. The ghosts come up from the basement. The masks start to fall. Everything that was repressed comes to the surface, not to torment you but to free you. Jung once said that individuation requires the dissolution of the persona, that mask we wear to blend in, to be accepted, and to be safe. He called it a mask of collective convenience, and that's exactly what it is. To become who you truly are, you must be willing to tear it off, to shed your skin. And that process, it's like walking through fire. But here's the paradox. It's in walking through that fire that you become untouchable, not because you stop feeling, but because you stop fearing what you feel. You've already danced with your demons. You've already held your shame, your rage, your loneliness in your bare hands. You've looked them in the eye and said, I see you, I hear you, and you don't control me anymore. And that clarity, that lucidity in the face of your darkness, is what gives you an inner strength that doesn't come from validation, status, or power. It comes from truth. You no longer need to be liked by everyone. You no longer need to explain yourself. You no longer need to appear invincible, because you've seen who you are beneath all that. And no one, not a critic, not a lover, not even the voice in your head, can take that away from you. Real emotional armor isn't something you put on. It's something you become. It's not a shell that hardens you. It's a center that anchors you. It's the unshakable calm of someone who has met all their inner parts and welcomed them home. It's the consciousness that remains intact even when life falls apart. You will still feel pain. Yes. You will still be disappointed. You will still grieve, mourn, and get your heart broken. But you will not break. You will not lose yourself, because you are no longer fragmented, you are whole. You've stopped living on the surface of things and learned to inhabit the depths. And that depth, it comes at a cost. Loneliness, not because no one loves you, but because so few are willing to go there with you. Most people are still trapped in performance, in ego, in the fear of feeling too much. So when you begin to free yourself truly, deeply, you begin to drift away from the noise, and it can feel like a loss, like isolation. But it's not. It's evolution. It's maturity. You're not walking away out of pride. You're walking away because the old space simply cannot contain the new version of you. You no longer fit where you once hid. And that brings us to one of the most important realizations of all. In this new chapter, it is not strength that protects you, it is clarity. Clarity becomes your shield. Consciousness becomes your fortress. Not the kind that keeps people out, but the kind that keeps you in, keeps you centered, aligned, grounded, and awake. This is what we'll explore in the final part, how consciousness becomes the only state in which nothing, absolutely nothing, has the power to own you anymore. Not someone else's opinion, not rejection, not pain, not even loss. And that's not because you've escaped life's hardships. It's because you've stopped escaping yourself. So let's finish this journey together. We've come this far. Don't turn back now. Now that you've walked this far into the truth, there's something you need to know with crystal clarity. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will shield you from the sting of life if you remain unconscious of what's happening inside you. Words will still cut like knives. Rejections will still shake you to your core. Losses will still bury you if you haven't yet awakened to your internal landscape. And awakening, it's not a grand magical event. It's not a lightning bolt from the sky. It's a daily choice. A gritty, courageous, humbling choice. It is the choice to look inward even when it hurts. It's the choice to take radical responsibility for everything you feel, not blaming your parents, your past, your partner, or fate, but standing in the mirror and saying, "This is mine to face." Jung said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." And now you see it. You've spent your entire life resisting the fear that you're not enough, resisting the aching emptiness of rejection, resisting the loneliness of not feeling seen. And what did it get you? Exhaustion, perfectionism, control, shame, silence. You've tried to be everything for everyone, and it left you depleted. You tried to be strong every day, and it made you feel numb. You tried to hold it all together while falling apart inside. But now you finally understand. True emotional immunity is not found in hardness. It's found in clarity. It's not about building higher walls. It's about turning on the lights within. Because once you begin to understand your patterns, your triggers, your wounds, the actions of others begin to lose their power to destroy you. Yes, you'll still feel, yes, you'll still suffer, but you won't drown in it anymore. You won't lose yourself. And that changes everything. You are no longer a prisoner to your pain. You are its translator. And through that understanding, you become free. So now that we've walked this path together from pain to presence, from hiding to healing, from unconscious patterns to conscious transformation, I want to ask you something deeply personal. What have you learned about yourself so far? What insight has awakened in you? What truth have you been avoiding that you're finally ready to face? Maybe it was the realization that you've been living in survival mode. Maybe you saw how often you silence your voice just to be accepted. Or maybe, for the first time, you felt seen, not judged for the messy, beautiful, powerful person you truly are beneath the mask. Whatever it is, I invite you to share just one thing you're taking away from this video. What is one truth you've learned? And more importantly, one practice you're ready to bring into your life from this moment on? Let us know in the comments below. Your story may be the light someone else needs to see. And if this video spoke to your soul, if it helped you feel a little less alone, a little more grounded, and a whole lot more you, please leave a comment below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's keep growing, healing, and awakening together. You're not alone on this journey. You are becoming, and that is everything.